All right, welcome to another edition of the Educators podcast. This is very special for me because not only one of my good friends, but also perhaps definitely one of my greatest mentors and somebody that kept me in the teaching profession when it was good, when I enjoyed it. But she really looked out for me and took me under her wing, and I'm very grateful for all the wisdom and guidance. And we made such a great team. Her and I and Vanessa Rudder Jackson we were the trifecta at our group. We were the dream team, and it's great to see you, Phyllis McCann. Great to see you. Welcome to Educators Podcast.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, and I feel the same way about you. You were great to work with, and you taught me a lot too. So I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Well, it's something about a great team when it's when you know you click. It's almost like the '93 Chicago Bulls where everybody kind of feeds off of each other's strengths.
Yeah.
And there were times and being able to lean on each other. I'm sure there were days when I'd come walking into your classroom and usually right after collaborative planning, you and I would go talk about, what about this mess? And, so we shared ideas, and it was such a pleasure to work with you. So much fun. So many funny stories, too. I was talking to
that was the good part about us. The good part about us. We can always kind of throw ideas back and forth and kind of feed off each other in a very positive way. Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that.
There's something about a good team, too, that makes it click. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree wholeheartedly that being on a great team, it not only do you work hard for the students, but you kind of get ideas that you never even thought about with the team. So that does make a very good team. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and vice versa, and sometimes building upon each other's ideas. Like you would come up with something, and then Vanessa would build upon it, or I would vice versa. I'd come up with something, you'd build upon it, or you'd come up with something, and that I feel like that's true collaboration versus forced collaboration. I think sometimes, when an authoritarian administration tries to push collaboration versus letting it happen naturally. But when you have that trust, it's different.
Yes, and I agree with you, because when it's forced, it seems as though we work towards what we have to work towards with the kids, but you lose the autonomy of how you would do things, opposed to it being forced. Yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely. Now, Phyllis, for those that are watching this or listening to this that aren't familiar with you, when you started teaching, and you've been teaching for a number of years. You started in New York. Tell us a little bit about what got you deciding to be a teacher, and your experiences, and what brought you to the dream team that you ultimately worked with here.
Okay. Yes, I am a New Yorker. Me being a teacher was something that happened naturally, because I'll tell people that I knew that when I was in 5th grade that I was going to be a teacher, because I always enjoyed going to school. I loved school, but I loved my elementary school teachers.
Yes.
And that was a big incentive for me wanting to be a teacher. So when I graduated high school, went to college, my major was elementary education. And so from there, and just me doing my student teaching, I loved it. So I knew that that's something I wanted to do. And I taught for 38 years. I was a teacher in New York for 12 years. And then I was a teacher here in the state of Virginia for 26 years. Yeah.
All right. I'm so glad it brought you to us.
Yes. And all of my experiences, they were in the classroom. I do have a master's degree in administration, leadership and administration, but I didn't move in that direction. I stayed in the classroom because my connection has always been with students. Yes.
There's part of it, I think, of what keeps some people from becoming administrators. It's that feeling like you're going to lose touch with the kids. You're being one step away.
That's what it was for me. It was for me. It was. I didn't want to lose that rapport and the connection that I had with the students, and I love the creativity of being in the classroom. Yes.
And a true testament to that, and I hear that from all of the teachers that I have tremendous respect for. When we always talk about what got us started into teaching, whether it was from right out of school or maybe it took us several years in another career to figure it out, it was always because of that one or two teachers that we remember. Usually elementary school that we just think about was such a great time. And it's so cool to see for you when you've become that teacher for others. I used to watch how kids would come, like fourth or fifth graders would come down to the third grade hallway just to see Miss McCann, just to give you a hug and check in on you. And that was always to me, that's worth more than any kind of Teacher of the Year award or anything like that.
Yeah. And do you know, Aaron, to this day, I have students that are now in their 20s, 23, 24, even 26. I'm giving away my age, but anyway.
But you're 37. I don't understand.
That is so true, Aaron. That is so true. But I do have students that have contacted me through email. They've searched for me and they found me through email or on Facebook, and to let me know what a positive impact that I've made in their life. And it really is. One girl, she said to me that, she said, Miss McCann, excuse me, I'm a nurse now. And she said, I do remember, she said, you were tough. She said, but I learned a lot being in your class. And I get that all the time. And I just met a young girl. I saw her and her mother a couple of weeks ago. And the mother, she said to my friend, she said, excuse me, I heard it. She said, is that Miss McCann? And so my girlfriend said, yes. So she said, Miss McCann. I said, hello. She said, I knew who she was. And she said, my daughter talks about you all the time. And I do get that. So that's a good feeling, Mr. Burden, for me. It really is.
That's so cool. Yeah. That's what really, gets the mojo flowing, makes you smile, makes you want to be in that classroom, and I totally get it. That's what they'll always remember. They're not going to remember a learning target, or they're not going to remember what score they made on a test. They're going to remember the teacher and the feeling and experience and all the cool projects that they have. If you could say anything to the teacher that just started, the Miss McCann that just started teaching, what would you say to her? Fresh out of school in New York, becoming a first year teacher.
One thing I would say is make sure you have your own little bag of tricks, things that work for your students. Just have that little bag of tricks. And excuse me, one thing I had to maintain to be a good teacher, good classroom management.
Yes.
Classroom management is a key, just to have control over, not so much control over the students, but how you manage your day and to keep the kids engaged. That's a big deal. That was a big deal for me. Yeah, but you got to have your own bag of tricks and know how to switch gears. If you can switch gears, if you see something is not working, even in the middle of a lesson, you just switch gears. Think quick on your feet to make it work for the students. Just make it work.
How many students do you think that have gone on to their adult life but still remember never, ever, ever subtract up?
Oh, they will never. My students, they cannot forget that. Never, ever subtract up. You cannot forget that, because I ingrained in their heads, you cannot subtract up.
You so many stories about that. And it's nothing against the second grade teachers, but we would find that a lot of kids coming up from second grade would have that misconception with regrouping. They would take like 22 minus 17, and they would in the ones column do 7 minus 2, and then
yes,
I'd hear you across the hall, never ever ever subtract.
because they were taught in the lower grades to subtract the smaller number from the larger number.
Yeah. And they, of course, they're thinking number as a single digit number.
That's right.
Instead of it being a digit. And then we get in third grade.
Yes.
Do you feel
and we're teaching the word digit in third grade, and they're teaching numbers, subtract this number from that number. But then when they get to third grade and you start really getting into having to have that knowledge of what numbers are and how to work with numbers, is digit.
Yes, digit.
So
it's always like I always try to write the word cat on the board, and then I would say, okay, numbers are like a 123 is a number, but 1 is a digit in that number. It's like
yes,
a letter in a word kind of thing.
Yes,
you have
perfect.
Single digit numbers, just like you have a single letter word like I or A.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Yes.
Never, ever, ever subtract.
You can't. That was ingrained. If they don't know that, oh boy. Well, if they didn't get that, yeah.
And you and I both experienced about right at the same time a revelation when, like, we were at a moment when I feel like I choose my words carefully because it was a positive moment for us, but it felt like the administration, like the administration in downtown, what have you, when they were really trying to like close their fists and change so much about the curriculum, especially the way we teach science. Like it was the beginning of a year where they had changed the science curriculum completely, and it was this totally new, like they were calling it, like, I guess, like exploratory learning. They had a bunch of different names for it. And you and I spent the whole weekend trying to figure out how are we going to teach this.
Yes, I remember that so well. Oh, Aaron, I remember that so well.
But you had a revelation. Go ahead.
Yes, and it was. Wait a minute. When I had come home, and we were focusing on science, and I couldn't figure out the way they had written this new curriculum.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't remember what the topic was. It matter?
Yeah, it was states of matter. Or was
it was states of matter.
Properties of matter.
Properties of matter.
Yeah.
And the way they had the way Virginia Beach had written this curriculum, I couldn't understand it. I didn't know the format of how it was, but I remember that binder. Remember the binder that they had given us?
Mm-hmm.
And I went, I had went back to the binder, and I was looking at what was in the binder and what they had, what was new. And I said, but it's the same thing, Phyllis. They just wrote it differently. And I came in and I said, Aaron, I stayed home all weekend trying to figure out how to teach science. And it's right here.
Exactly.
I said, I'm using this. And you said, Phyllis, I did the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I said, boom. I said, I'm going to use the information right here. The thing is, the way they had written it, they had took all of those components out, and they wanted people to come up with their own, but it was already given to us.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like they changed the presentation, but it was still the same thing.
It was the same concept. And we had all of the, everything that they wanted us to use, they had given it to us, but when it was rewritten, they took all of that out.
Why do you think they did that? And that seems to be a trend in education where it's like repackaging old ideas as new and like revolutionary when it's what teachers have been doing for so long.
Sometimes I think it's a money-making thing where someone comes in and they introduce a way of doing something, and I'm just going to say Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach, they jump right on it, but and they just rename something that's already been out there, but they trying to do it a different way, but it's still the same exact thing.
And I remember
I don't know if I'm making. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, yeah, it's exactly that. It's repackaged, but hey, look at this new. We're gonna call it hybrid learning or something, but it's really just what we've been doing. I remember the other day we were doing some house cleaning, and I came across my third grade report card, and and in the comments they were using the same kind of comments that we were encouraged to use recently in report cards with that PBIS focus, but it was the same stuff. It was just this time, nowadays repackaged as PBIS. But one of the things I think is important, what you and I learned with that moment was you can't not be you as a teacher. You got to teach the way works.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Because I remember one time, the assistant principal, she had come into my classroom because how I did morning work. My kids had to do that morning work.
Yeah.
And one thing that I did as a teacher, my students, they used to write. They always had those notebooks. Remember, I had those 4 notebooks. One for math, one for reading, one for science, social studies. And so when I taught a particular subject, I would give them notes. I would write notes, little notes on the board. And I remember one time the assistant principal had come into my classroom, and so she said, Miss McCann, I said, yes. She says, do you think that your kids write too much? I said, no. She said, because she says, when I come by, she says, I notice that your kids are always writing. And she says that when I come in that they're writing. I said, yes, they are writing. Excuse me. I said, there are notes that I do expect them to write. So that way, when they have tests, I said, they can go home, take the notebooks home and use those notes. I said, this is like their study guide.
Yeah.
And I know at one point she told me that my kids, I had my kids write too much. But that didn't stop me, because I can tell you this: when they got to 5th grade, the 5th grade teacher would say, or 4th and 5th grade teachers would say, "Oh, I know what class you came from. You came from Miss McCann's class." I said, "Why you say that?" She said, "Because they always writing. They know how to write.
They're used to it. Exactly.
They're used to writing." Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's so much that I think that is misconstrued as like they don't understand. They don't I think a lot of times when folks look at stuff like writing or times table memorization, they don't see the long-term effects. But exactly that. It's like now we're in a time, I think, with a lot of students, they don't write enough. When I was teaching fourth grade for a little bit, I was getting students that when I'd ask them to actually write with a pencil, some of them were like 1st grade level writing, and it wasn't just because they're so used to not even typing. They're used to this.
Yes.
This on a phone or a tablet, and to me, I almost feel like, now, granted, I do think they need to learn typing skills.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a and studies do reflect that writing things down help with recollection.
Memorization. That's right. You remember it more when you write it down.
Yeah. It activates a whole different side of the brain or something.
That is so true, Aaron. That is true. And the research will show that when you write it down, and if you write it down a number of times, like you said, you use a different part of your brain. You do remember it. Yeah. You do.
Even if you can't read what you just wrote down, if you wrote it down, there's a little bit of a chance you're going to remember.
You're going to remember because you wrote it.
Exactly. I think that with the times table thing too, you and I, right at the end before we both kind of left the classroom, they were shifting the way students learn multiplication facts.
Oh yeah, they was. Yeah.
I felt like they watered it down, and it was under what I was told is that memorization of multiplication facts was causing too much trauma with
What?
with the students, that it was causing them anxiety and causing them to not like math. Now, this is one of my biggest pet peeves is when confusing a student that feels anxiety. To me, isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, our job as teachers is to put students in disequilibrium and then guide them on how to get out of it. And
Right.
I think sometimes, that they need to feel that, oh, I got to learn this or else, or they're going to, I think that's when true learning takes place, is when they're in disequilibrium and they have to balance out.
And it wasn't anything negative that we were doing. It was, for example, I was still doing mad minutes, or I would still use the flashcards, the multiplication flashcards, and they would stand up and I would show them a flashcard, and they see 5 times 4, they would say 20. And so they knew it. It was just automatic. They would automatically know it. And it wasn't anything about causing anxiety. It was something for fun that we would do, and they loved it. That was end of the day where they would say, "Can we do Mad Minutes?"
Yeah.
And we do the Mad Minute game, and they loved it.
I feel
So
like
it,
but see, that's how you built a community, and you made it a system, and you made it part of the classroom, and the kids understood that. They respected, they understood what it was.
It was fun. They enjoyed that. I'm telling you, honestly, Aaron, even the students that didn't do much sometimes during the day, even he would jump up. I don't want to say names, but he would jump up in the back just to do the Mad Minutes because he enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And when he would get it right, oh my goodness, and still be standing with some of the best, that was a big deal.
Oh, that's huge. That
was huge. A big deal. That was a big deal. Oh man, to get praised like that. Yes.
I really dislike when a certain technique is painted with a broad brush and dismissed by administrators because maybe 1 or 2 teachers somewhere taught it poorly or used a certain technique poorly. Mm-hmm. So we're going to just get rid of it completely. I used to use a clipper system for my behavior management, but I had the purple side too, where it was where you start off on green, and if you struggled or the day you went to yellow. But what went with that is a community where we were excited, like the kids weren't permanently on yellow with no return. They could earn their way back to green. If not, they could even go home purple. In the class environment, we would rally behind them to get back. And
yes. Yeah. Because when you started that calendar, yes. I loved the calendar. I got that. That calendar every month. The parents loved the calendar because that would be right in their folder. Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, everybody starts out on green, but they would be able to they would be able to get back to yellow or green. But mm-hmm. But it was good, it was perfect. I loved it.
I did too. And I think the message that it would send is you could have a bad day. You might go home yellow. Heck, you might go home red. But the next day, you're starting back on green.
They always start back, yeah. Uh-huh.
You don't feel like you've burnt any bridges. It's a new day. You can put yesterday behind you. And I felt like that was but then to see how that was, and it almost was like because PBIS was coming, that was like almost seen as maybe as a threat to PBIS or a competition in some way, maybe. I don't know.
No, Aaron, the calendar that you created, that calendar worked. Mm-hmm. It worked. It worked for us.
Especially, and all you had to do was get one kid to go home purple and be excited to tell their parents. Then you hooked them. Because the next day they had the parents go, "Did you get purple again today?" And they go, I don't remember. Well, let me see the calendar. And then it's
let me see your
yellow, and you're like, oh,
Yes.
But again, this is
It was good. It was good.
It was great, and I feel like something. This is again just sage wisdom, and that I got from you is, building that rapport and not being fake with kids. Because you and I have seen teachers that talk to students like, "Okay, kiddo,
Yeah.
we're gonna do this." Kids can see right through that. They know
They can see.
fake.
They can see right through that.
Do you feel that kids, that they appreciate when teachers are being real with them and showing their humanity? I mean, still that arm's length of respect, but showing that thing that they explaining why we're doing things, or being, having that realism to teaching.
Yes, I do. I think teachers should always keep it real with the students, because, like you said, they can see that you don't mean what you're saying. Your actions really speaks louder than your words. Let's put it like that.
Yes,
and they can see that. Yes, they know when you genuinely care for them, and when you're just kind of faking the funk. Mm-hmm. They do.
Absolutely.
So it's best that you do that. Yeah, I kept it real all the time. One thing I can say as a teacher, I was always fair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very fair, even just being fair with them, listening to both sides, and just being fair and letting them see why I'm doing what it is, whatever decision that I've made. I let them see why I made a particular decision about whatever happened. Yeah. But always be fair. You have to be fair. You have to be fair. You have to.
And they have to see fairness, and they have to have that follow.
Yes.
I believe kids, they crave structure. But they need to feel that they're in a safe place, but that's not necessarily coddling. And I think sometimes coddling gets mixed with safe. Because safe can mean structure, doesn't mean easy. Safe means like, hey, this is the system in place, but these are the things expected of you, but this is you will be listened to. And I think that they even if a teacher is hard or strict, if they're fair, the respect and the likability will be that the kids will feel comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. I know for a fact I was always fair. And because I would say to the students, is this fair? Am I being fair?
Mm-hmm.
And they would either say, if they say yes or no, I will always say, so why do you think so? And I would give them the situation and let them see why I made my decision. But it's based on being fair. I have to be fair. I could say it's only fair.
It's such a part of the unwritten curriculum that what we do teach, because you could say math, science, social studies, language arts, what have you, but the part about life lessons, because ultimately as teachers we are preparing them.
Oh my goodness, yes.
For adulthood, and
yes.
Understanding that fairness, and understanding that sometimes the kid that's always getting in trouble, sometimes he's in the right in one situation. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're always going to be right. And I think that that's something that they deep down appreciate.
Yeah, whatever the mitigating situation is, as far as what happened, you have to be fair. Yeah, and I have to let them see that according to what happened or what's going on, it's only fair that we do such and such. Yeah,
absolutely. What you and I both got out of the classroom. You've retired, and I do want to talk about this really cool nonprofit that you're working on. But before we get into that, I think you and I both kind of felt like things were really radically starting to change in education before we both got out. How was education different in those last few years versus before?
Well, with me, once COVID had come, once we entered the world of COVID, that education took a major nosedive, mm-hmm. and things just weren't the same. And teaching online was a challenge for me, being that I am a 38-year veteran teacher. So teaching online was was definitely a challenge for me, but I got the hang of it and I started to enjoy it. But keeping the kids engaged in education from their homes, that was not good because it was very difficult for them to focus. Um, and just getting them to stay on top of what had to be done, that
Mhm.
wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. So you were losing them. And even though my attendance during COVID usually stayed at 100%, like I used to tell the secretary, I have
Yeah.
100% today. She said, "You're the only one that's keeping 100%." I said, "I'm trying, but I don't know. They're showing up every day and on time
Yep.
in the waiting room." But since COVID, education has taken a major nosedive because the kids, they lost so much during that time, and it's not their fault, and and it's not the teacher's fault as well. But the way they structured that curriculum during COVID, it wasn't good for the kids at all, Aaron.
No.
It really wasn't. It was.
No.
It was not.
And not just the academic gaps that were created, but I just kind of piggybacking off the stuff that we teach that's not in the curriculum. I feel like a lot of social skills, problem solving skills, coping skills
Skills. Mm-hmm.
were lost
Yeah.
when we got back into the classroom. When we went back, I noticed a lot of my fourth grade students were emotionally and socially like first graders. Like
Oh wow.
there were a lot. Like I had a fourth grade student that couldn't tie his shoes, and now granted that happens, but he was very like against learning how to do it, and there were so many like there were always conflicts, and there's always they're kids, there's always going to be conflicts, but there seemed to be a helplessness that I hadn't seen
Mm-hmm.
before. I mean, you'd see maybe a handful of students that maybe were a little bit more coddled than others, but there seemed to be a mass helplessness. At least maybe it was just the class I had. Maybe, but it was more. I've talked to other teachers. They felt the same way, and it's almost like the lockdown or being at home. Things were almost like they weren't expected to do as much as when
Right.
that
Yeah. I
consistent
agree. I agree.
school.
Because when they're physically in front of you, um, they know what your expectations are.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that they didn't know during Zoom or um, during that time, but um, in the classroom, it would have been totally different because we have the expectations were there, and they would kind of rise to the occasion. But when they're zooming, it's not the same because they're in their home and they're comfortable at home, and they pretty much used to doing what they want to do in their home. But
yeah.
in the classroom, we had a little bit more control over that. We had a lot more control over that. Yeah. So.
I wanted to before we get into some because I want to end on positive, awesome stuff. But I don't know if recently in the news there's been a couple school shootings where, and like recently there's one where at a private Christian school where a girl came in, and I guess there's three children, three
Was that
teachers.
today?
That
Was
was
that
today.
today? I
Yeah,
just saw that on the news when I came in not too long ago. It was on the 5:30 news.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just saw that 5 o'clock news. Excuse me.
And then that piggybacks off of the student, the 17-year-old in Colorado. I believe it was Colorado
Uh
that
huh.
he like part of his behavior plan was to be patted down
Down.
every morning,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
they struggled with the gun, and he shot the two administrators. Do you feel like do you feel like the way that behavior is managed is has changed, and is it less effective, more effective? And not to get on a guns versus mental health kind of debate, but in your opinion, what's contributing to these more to these kind of incidents occurring? Could be
honestly,
a lot of
Aaron, I'm not really sure, but the, the administrators, when you see kids that are in that position or that's having that much difficulty in school, in a school environment, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when. Because they, if a child is going through that, and you administration, or they have to go through those channels to avoid something, it's not a matter of if it's going, it's just when. Because something is going, I don't know, Aaron, I
well,
just don't know how to,
maybe
I don't know.
ask a better question, because I mean that's such a loaded, issued question. Do you feel like do you feel like students are getting the supports that they really need, especially troubled students? For example,
No,
a
no.
hypothetical student that says that he wants to burn the school down. Hypothetical student.
Hmm.
I've seen students that it's like similar to that, where the second grade teacher would have a stack of anecdotal notes this thick on all
Hmm.
these times where this student has shown psychotic tendencies. Now, we're not psychologists, but we're educators, and we're professionals, and we're experts in our field. And then they get to third grade, and the administration says, well, let's see how they do this year. And then that teacher gets another stack of anecdotals, and then that's wiped off, and then they get to four. It's
Yeah,
almost like
that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
so. Do you don't think that most students, especially troubled students, are getting the supports that they truly need? Would you agree?
No. Yeah, I agree. I do agree. I'm telling you, I do agree because I've seen it for so many times. And I've had those students, and I've had those students where I've had to keep those anecdotals, and sometimes they put them in I've had students that were put in my class, and I was told specifically from administration, we're putting him or her with you because we know that you can probably straighten so and so or such and such out.
Yeah.
So, and the, I did a lot of nurturing in third grade, and fourth and fifth. It was a lot of nurturing and just showing a lot of love. But
Yeah.
the like you said, the mental part of what they're going through, no, Aaron, it's more than what administration can handle. Out, it's a lot more than that. So in the school, they're probably trying to do as best they can, but they're not getting what they probably need. No.
Do you feel like we should spend more money or create positions that are just for support? Like, because
Yeah.
a school counselor isn't enough. One
No, school
school
counselor is
counselor,
not enough. No.
yeah. We need to really look at having those supports. And it's frustrating because I feel like our special educators and assistants are spread so thin. Yeah, I would have a
Yeah.
special educator that would come in to serve minutes on a student, and she would only be able to be in for 15 minutes, and the educator felt terrible, because it's like, how can I build an effective relationship with the student if I'm
Yeah.
just checking in with them? And I feel like there's a monster that we're ignoring here. Like you said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And
Yeah. Yeah.
our kids are suffering. And
Yeah.
wish we
Yeah.
could I wish we could find a way to fix that.
I
But
do too.
I
I do
am
too.
I am really excited and super stoked about this nonprofit that you started, that you were telling me about. And how, where are you with this? And it's, because I
Oh,
remember you actually started working with foster children, and now this nonprofit that you've got working sounds fantastic. Tell us about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, because I am a foster parent with the state of Virginia. My home is a licensed foster home, but my nonprofit is starting an agency for independent living for not students, for children that age out of foster care at the age of 18, when the foster parents um, would like them to leave their home at age 18, or if a child decides that at 18, I no longer want to be in foster care, and they have nowhere to go. So what my agency is doing, which is fostering a better future, what we're doing is we starting an independent living program. So the children that age out, they will come to our agency, and we provide placement, or not really placement, but homes or apartments for them. And we are still working under the umbrella of the state. And so we get a contract with the social services, human services in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, whomever, the 7 cities. We get the contract with them, and they place them in our agency. We provide homes for them, and homes and programs that will continue to help them to excel, as and become independent. Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
What are some of the programs that they can partake in? Like economic related, or?
Yeah. So they have, well, not that they have to, but our program, we provide money management skills, we provide cooking skills, we provide driver's education skills, skills for education for them to either finish high school and enroll in college. Definitely job related skills, job placements, skills. We have in place supervisors. We have an executive director, a child placing supervisor, someone who's bringing the children into the agency. We still have a caseworker. We deal with social workers. So we do have a lot of different programs and different entities that are focusing on what it is that our children need in order to be successful.
That's
So
tremendous. Fostering a better future, such a great name for it too.
Yeah, it is fostering a better future. So that's where we are right now. So everything is pretty much done. We had to write policies, procedures, and submit that to the state for licensure. Things have been kicked back a couple of times, but right now we got people who've been donating furniture for the apartments. We have people that's been donating pots and pans, all things that are needed to furnish an apartment, because we're doing the furnishing. So we have things that are being donated. So right now, as we speak, we should be getting our license probably by next week. And, yeah, I know. But it's been a year in the working, Aaron. It's been a year. And so we're happy about that. So I did get an email, matter of fact, on Saturday. My licensure specialist, she emailed me Saturday at 7:50. She says, I'm in the office now on a Saturday, and I'm printing out some stuff, and I'm going to review all your documents again, and you should be hearing from me by the end of the week. So I'm thinking that license.
Oh, let's go. And
yes.
If somebody wants to donate, whether they want to contribute financially or they want to contribute some furniture or household items, who should they say? Is there an email they can contact or a phone number?
Yes, it's well, I'm the CEO of the agency. We do have an executive director, and who will be running the agency for us. So, but right now, to get donations, I'm just putting the word out verbally, just through word of mouth. And someone is telling this one, someone's telling that person. And so that's how we've been getting it. So right now, I had someone, I spoke with someone, and she told somebody, and they called me, and they were getting new living room furniture, new bedroom furniture. And so they called me to tell me that they have this furniture that they would like to donate. And I went over, took a look at it, and it was in perfect condition, perfect. So, another person in the agency and myself, we went over, and we got a U-Haul, and I opened up a storage unit, and all the stuff is in the storage unit. So once I get licensure and they come out and inspect the office, the apartments complex is ready for us to go. So, and we can we have to make sure we get licensure, because then we can contact Virginia Beach Social Services, Norfolk Social Services, because that's how we get paid to help the others, help the kids with the apartments and so on. So, but
So
the programs, I have people, throughout the city who are introducing me. I'm meeting with people with like cooking classes, um, uh, health classes. If they have babies, we're working with them. CPR, all of that. So, yeah.
that's cool. I think you and I happen to know a financial expert, the
Yes.
CFO
Uh-huh.
of Rudder
Yes.
Jackson Financial Services, one of our
Uh-huh.
sponsors on this broadcast. Unofficial, she's official sponsor, and
Yes, she is.
I think
Yeah.
that I think also that fostering a better future is another going to be another sponsor of our program, more so just free advertising. But I think that's fantastic. But maybe that the Rudder Jackson Financial Services CFO could
She
talk.
would definitely be an asset to coming in and speaking with the young adults on money management and how to get ahead in there with their finances. She would be the a perfect spokeswoman or spokesperson to come in and give them some guidance. So that would be perfect. Yeah,
And for
because
those of you that don't,
they're going to need that. That's one of our policies that I put in place for the state. So whatever policy that I've put in place for excuse me for this agency, it has to be done. So that's one thing. So I would love for her to come down
and those of
and
you that
talk with.
don't know, we're talking about the third amigo in our
Yeah.
trifecta of awesome, Vanessa, and who also has been on the podcast. And uh, I'm at the same question that I have for you, but I almost want to hold off because I want
Okay.
to set it up where you and I and Vanessa do a 3-person podcast, and the
Okay.
topic is what is and what shouldn't and what should be taught in school. And what I
Okay.
specifically a focus on what financial skills, what life skills are should or should not be taught. For example, are instead of learning, the 3 different types of rocks, which I think is important, shouldn't we also be teaching kids how to manage a checking account, or how
Hmm.
to what is credit, and what happens when you get a credit
Yeah.
card,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. They don't
interest
know
rates.
anything about that. No, they
I,
didn't.
I almost feel
They
like that
don't.
should be those should be important life skill. I think doing an interview, like conducting a job interview practice. I think those same skills that you're talking about. I think they're absent. I feel like they're absent in the school system, and that might be a great discussion for the 3 of us to have another time. But
Yeah,
just
I would agree to that. I do. I would agree to that. Thank you. Yeah, I would. I would. Yeah. So
off the top of your head, though, what is one thing that what is one skill that you wish was focused more on in school, any level, elementary through high school? What is one life skill do you feel like should be taught more or emphasized more,
hmm.
or is that kind of an open ended?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking it's something that has to do with um it's like a sociology type thing. I guess just knowing that in society you have to just behave a certain way. It's because I think the young people are getting away from that. They're
Mm-hmm.
just getting away from how to be a part of society. I don't know if I'm making any sense,
Yeah,
but
it's. I mean, this is a poor analogy. Would be under our house, under our rules, but societies have always, throughout history, a society is a group of people agreeing upon certain norms to protect each other, to
but
coming
just
together.
knowing how to interact with
Yeah,
another person in a positive way
yes,
is yeah it's just getting more and more. You're just seeing more and more of young people not doing that. Maybe that's why they're having so many shootings or whatever in the schools. But just knowing how to interact with people and just being a good role model or a positive part of society. I don't know. I may not be making sense, but
No, you're
that's what
making
I think.
perfect sense. No, it's not, and it's not like it's not necessarily quote unquote to behave, but it's for our society to function. There are certain things that you have to kind of you have to practice, and just being ugly to somebody isn't going to help society.
It's not going to help. Yeah, it
Um,
seems like people are just angry and just you
yeah,
don't have to be that way. Just knowing how to interact with people positively, and some you don't have to agree with everything. You don't have to agree with someone all the time, but just knowing how to disagree and just still be okay.
yeah. You
Yeah,
don't throw the
but
baby out with
yeah.
the bathwater. Like you and I could disagree on should pineapple be on pizza, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop talking to each other.
Oh, definitely. That's a
And I think,
perfect example. Yes.
but I think
Yeah.
sometimes people get like that. They'll disagree on a political argument or a football team they'll disagree on something, and then it's like this. And I don't want to call it cancel culture, but they just like that's it. I don't want
They
anything to
can't.
do with you because you don't see things the
Yeah.
same way I do, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a scary pitfall we can really fall into. I want to leave
Yeah.
this on a positive note. For I want
Okay.
any message, any uplifting or positive or encouraging or any kind of advice that you would give to brand new teachers out there, or teachers like we were in the foxholes, fighting it out, hanging in there. What advice do you have for teachers today?
Okay. Just continue to do what you think is best for the students. I'm not saying to go against the curriculum, but just know that you're in that classroom and you know what's best for those students. So just keep that in mind. Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
Phyllis, thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
us on
Aaron.
the Educators Podcast. Definitely got to have you again, and we'll. I'm looking forward to the three amigos getting together and
Okay.
having a nice chat. And we got it. Maybe we'll do it live at La Herradura or something like that. I
Okay.
don't
Oh, perfect.
Well, thank you for
All
Phyllis
right. Thanks,
McCann,
Aaron.
and I am of course Mr. Burden, A. Ron, and I will see you again. Y'all have a great week,
You
and be true
too.
to
Thank you,
yourself
Aaron.
and do your best. Always.
Okay. Okay. Have a good night.